Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Hi, is everybody happy? We are finally back together again. This is exciting, just all within itself. I cannot believe it. I missed you all. It's just been, I feel like I've been on a hiatus somewhere, and I feel like we're back home now. So welcome home to everyone. And speaking of welcoming home, we want to welcome our wonderful sponsor for years and years and years. I can't remember how far we went back with Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola has been there for us for years and years, and some of you probably even remember getting Coca-Cola corsages at the luncheon. So that's just how far back we go. You probably don't even know that, Valerie. That was probably before you were born. But we are just delighted to be here and delighted to bring you this wonderful panel today so we can talk about economic empowerment. I was thinking about, I was sort of blessed with two wonderful grandfathers. And one grandfather, even though he died before I was born, he passed on this legacy that you just don't go to town to buy something. You should go to town and sell something. So that was the way he sort of helped instill independence with all of his 16 children. And then there was my maternal grandfather, who I would say, Daddy Will, look at this. It cost $300, and now it's down to $150. You get to save $150 if you buy this for me. And he would say, baby, I'm going to save $300 because I'm not buying. So I just want to say that please enjoy today's event, all of them. We'll see you a little bit later. But I want to get started with Ms. Valerie Love, who is a VP for Coca-Cola and just a wonderful person to get started and to bring you greetings from Coca-Cola. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Genevieve, for that really kind introduction. And on behalf of the Coca-Cola Company, congratulations to the Black Women's Agenda for your 45th Annual Symposium. I have really enjoyed the energy and the passion in this room, a room full of Black women who've convened to talk about and express and be creative in the dialogue around issues that are pressing for Black women and our families. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to our staff members, to our supporters, to our corporate partners, our 24 national collaborating organizations, and all those in the room as allies for this important work. I'd also like to take this time to recognize Genevieve for all the amazing work you've done as president of the Black Women's Agenda. Your tenacious and courageous leadership has positioned you quite well to continue this amazing work. And I ask God's strength as you do the work that He has assigned for you to do. At the Coca-Cola Company, our purpose is to refresh the world and make a difference for all. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is at the heart of everything we do, and it is the foundation of our culture. Now, as Genevieve mentioned, I serve as a Chief HR Officer for our North America Operating Unit, and in this role, our focus is around changing the lives and trajectory for people that look like us, and really putting forth the efforts with programs and initiatives to help to advance economic sufficiency for all people. We work very closely with organizations just like this one because we have a shared passion and value and proposition around this important work. I believe in diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's my passion. It is my life's work. it is my intention to make sure that when I step away from my role, that I've left it better than I found it. We work collaboratively with organizations like the Black Women Agenda to advance this work, because we know when we change the trajectory of women's lives in the homes, we've changed the trajectory for families and communities, and that's what we're all about. The Coca-Cola Foundation has also advanced this work through different workshops, such as the financial literacy program that helps to advance work around credit, savings, entrepreneurship, and that's really important to us. So I'm honored again to be here to kick off this important conversation. I ask that you lean in, engage, take lots of notes, and if appropriate, ask lots of questions so that we're fueled and ready to step back into our day lives, into our organizations, and into our community to continue to impact change. Thank you.
Good morning. It is my pleasure to introduce our moderator, Mrs. Simone D. Sanders Townsend. Simone is one of our sisters that we all know by her first name. We watched Simone rise to national prominence in 2016 when she served as the youngest National Press Secretary of record to U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders' presidential campaign. Rolling Stone magazine recognized Simone as one of 16 young Americans that shaped the 2016 presidential election. Simone served as a special advisor to Joe Biden, President Joe Biden's presidential campaign, and at age 29, Simone published her first book entitled, "No, You Shut Up," speaking truth to power and reclaiming America. And we all know that at age 31, Simone was appointed as the chief spokesperson and special advisor to our own Vice President, Kamala Harris. Simone currently hosts her MSNBC show entitled Simone, which Simone, all of your sisters in this room, we religiously tune in to you each week on MSNBC and in MSNBC Peacock. There's absolutely no one like Simone on television today. She boldly and unapologetically informs our politics and our culture. In Simone's own words, if you have done the work, if you are capable and have earned what it is that you're asking for, you should be emboldened and empowered to ask for it. One of the most influential voices in our world today, please help me welcome our moderator, Simone D. Sanders Townsend.
All very much. Is my mic on? All right. Thank you all very much. Thank you, ladies. Thank you to the Black Women's Agenda. Thank you to Coca-Cola. Y'all didn't clap loud enough for Coca-Cola if I got something to say about it. Y'all better give Coca-Cola a round of applause. I just want to make sure that we are all aware that the Black Women's Agenda is celebrating its 45th annual symposium. This town hall is where we get into the issues, and today the topic is the economy, economics, financials, and of course, Black women. So let me introduce this very esteemed panel, then we are going to jump into it. I want you to have your questions percolating because we are going to come to the crowd, the audience, while this is happening. I know there are folks streaming online, thank you. And I just want, ladies, I want you to know off top, we are taking questions, not soliloquies, okay? We're taking what? We're taking what? We're taking questions, not soliloquies. All right then. Well, let's introduce our esteemed panel. On the end, holding it down, is Gabrielle Anderson. She is a freshman at Harvard University, where she is also a member of the basketball team, and she plans to major in economics. In addition, she owns her own custom art company, Graffiti by Gabby. Now, what started as Gabrielle just designing some shoes for friends quickly turned into orders from all walks of life. Y'all, she has designed shoes for WNBA legends Sue Bird, NBA stars R.J. Hampton and Grant Williams. She lists these as some of her favorite projects to work on. Graffiti by Gabby, though, is bigger than just custom shoes. Her company has expanded into 3 other genres, including commissioned paintings. Her first was a project commissioned by WSLAM for her to paint a portrait of legendary coach Don Staley, okay? She has so many different projects. She recently was commissioned by Walmart to paint portraits displayed in over 1,500 stores, okay? Walmart, let's talk about corporate partnership, ladies. It goes on, okay? It goes on. So Gabrielle Anderson, please give her a round of applause. Holding it down in the red blazer, okay, is Ms. Natalie M. Cofield, ladies. She is the former head of the Office of Women's Business Ownership at the U.S. Small Business Administration, where she funded the largest expansion of the Women's Business Center network in the history of SBA. Okay, in the history, this is monumental, the work that she did there. This was a total of 146 local centers created in every state, the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico. Okay, right, I got the receipts right here. She was a presidentially appointed assistant administrator for the FBA, and she advised on the deployment of $1.2 billion with a, trillion with the T in funding, and was directly responsible for programs that distributed more than $200 million in funding across ecosystems. We are very happy to have the former assistant administrator here with us today. Thank you, Natalie. Y'all give it up for Natalie Cofield. Next up is a star reporter, y'all, Miss Sharon Epperson. Okay, she is CNBC's senior personal finance correspondent. Okay, so if we're going to talk about finance today, we need the experts, and here we have one. Sharon has been named one of 12 to watch in TV news. She is a lead contributor to Invest in You, Ready, Set, Grow. That's a multi-platform financial wellness and education initiative at CNBC in partnership with the micro investing app Acorns. Y'all have seen the app, okay? Let's just be very clear. Sharon also contributes to NBC's Today, NBC Nightly News, as well as Today.com and NBCNews.com. She has a book, The Big Payoff, 8 Steps Couples Can Take to Make the Most of Their Money and Live Richly. I have ordered the book, okay, I'm ordering. This book was a finalist for the Books for a Better Life Awards. Sharon is just, she is a boss here. And I'm very excited we have your expertise. Give it up for Sharon. Holding it down next to Sharon is Ms. Sophia A. Nelson. If you haven't seen her, you must be living under a rock. She is an award-winning author, journalist, university scholar, adjunct professor in Virginia. Sophia is a USA Today columnist and contributing editor to thegrill.com, as well as a contributor to the Washington Post. Again, the receipts. Again, if you haven't seen her, you must be living under a rock. She regularly contributes on MSNBC, CNN, PBS as a legal and political analyst, and she was most recently a scholar in residence and adjunct professor at the Department of Philosophy and Religion at Christopher Newport University. She's a former investigative counsel to the U.S. Representative Committee on Oversight and Reform and senior counsel with the international law firm of Holland and Knight. She's the author of 3 nonfiction books. Four. Ooh, multiple streams of income. Black Women Redefined, The Women Code, E Pluribus One. What's the 4th book?
One you need, 21 life lessons I learned taking care of everyone but me.
Sophia A. Nelson, ladies and gentlemen. And last but certainly not least is Miss Janelle Ross. She is the president of the Bob Ross Auto Group. Now, Janelle earned her bachelor's degree from Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia. Are there any Atlanteans in the audience? Okay, Atlanta, stand up. She completed the General Motors Dealer Management Development Program, and she also graduated from the National Automobile Dealers Association Dealer Candidate Academy. Okay, it's too long, but the receipts matter because you did do the work. Janelle is only the second generation African-American woman automobile dealer in the country. Only the second generation automobile, you are not? The first woman, okay? Let's make it clear. Today, the Bob Ross Auto Group, located in Centerville, Ohio, includes 3 franchises: Buick, GMC, and Mercedes-Benz. Y'all have heard of the brands. Give it up for Miss Janelle Wells. All right, now that I have introduced our illustrious panel and y'all are clear about who we're sitting with today, I think we just need to start with the baseline, ladies, because I don't think we can talk about Black women, economic empowerment, financial freedom without understanding where we are in the numbers. Now, in the June report from the Labor Department, unemployment for Black women fell to 5.6%. That's down from 5.9%. To be very clear, let's just put it in context, the unemployment rate among white women hovered at 2.9%. Labor force participation for white women was steady at 57.1%. Black women, according to the June report, were leaving the workforce. And this is a trend that's been happening, just not throughout the pandemic, because the pandemic put a spotlight and magnified many of the issues that we've already all been dealing with. So Sharon, I'm just wondering if you can break this down. Where do we really stand when we are looking at Black women and their participation in the labor force?
Well, I think you outlined the numbers, but I think the important thing to keep in mind is that Black women are in the labor force in underpaid or not paid roles. So we are participating in the labor force more than many other people, but are not necessarily counted in the way that we need to be counted. And I think it's important to realize, as people are talking about there are more jobs out there are more opportunities out there, we can't find people. We're here, we have the skills, we can do the work, and that's important for people to understand.
Madam Assistant Administrator, I read a study some years ago that talked about the fact that while Black women have been leaving corporate America, they are the leaders in starting businesses. They are leading the way when it comes to small businesses in this country. Is that the bridge to economic empowerment here for Black women?
Yes, and I'm glad you mentioned that, Simone. So we saw in a previous recession, there was an exodus of executive Black women, middle-level management Black women, and they were going off to start businesses. It was during this time that Black women became the fastest growing entrepreneurial demographic in the nation. And we see it again right now, where we have women who've walked out of the labor force or been forced out of the labor force due to COVID at the highest rate since 1988. And while we're making strides in closing that divide from what happened in COVID, we also now know and see that women continue to excel in entrepreneurship, growing at the fastest rate ever, even during the pandemic. And again, who was leading that charge? Us, as Black women. And so that's why when I was in my role at SBA, it was critical for us to do things that we did. When Simone mentioned adding a women's business center in every state in the United States of America, we needed to do that because we were putting them in strategic places where Black women existed. We tripled the number of HBCUs that had women's business centers on their campuses because we're the future of entrepreneurship. And yes, anytime we own something, right? And I was mentioning this yesterday, and I'll close with this. Everybody was anyone that didn't have a business already formed when PPP came out was mad at themselves that they didn't just go ahead and do it. And what happened was all of these resources, 1.2 trillion deployed, more money coming out of SBA than the Department of Defense. This is the first time in history that that's ever happened. But if we had not already structured our businesses, we could not get in on that. And so I say to all of us, it's a call to action. Just go ahead and start it. Because you never know what could happen tomorrow, and you at least want to have given yourself a running start.
Let's talk to someone who has started a business. Gabrielle, I think oftentimes we talk about these numbers and but what is the practical implication of what we are saying? You are a student, you are a student athlete, and you are a businesswoman.
In full honesty, starting my business up during COVID was probably one of the smartest decisions I have ever made. I not only got the opportunity to step ahead in the field, and coming into college, I think I kind of realized that a lot of these people had aspirations to do things, but they never thought they could do them. Mm-hmm. And being able to have my own money, start my own practice, and continue to grow that business has made me become one of the best leaders, I think, on my basketball team. I think they look at me and they believe that I do all these extraordinary things, but really I took chance of those opportunities, and I grasped something great and creative during that COVID time when those numbers were rising, and it was very beneficial.
Capitalize on the opportunity. We're going to continue to get a baseline, and I'm going to move to some other questions. Jeanette, we were talking, and I asked about your industry, and Black women in your industry is particularly, and you gave me a very startling number, so I would like you to share the number with the audience.
Well, it's unfortunate that there's close to 18,000 new vehicle dealerships in the country, and there's only 4 that are owned by African American women. And that's in 2022. And it's not without the manufacturers, which Vivian and I've had this conversation over the decades of them trying, and GM was a leader in really reaching out to women in general, but then how can we bring more minorities into the fold? So as we continue to press the envelope with the manufacturers and having more people in your positions that can help voice the opportunities, because we are buying, and we are buying at accelerated rates and always have, but going back to your point, it may not always get the true documentation and worth of what we're doing.
That is to say the least. Sophia, I want to round out this part of the conversation with you, because we've talked about the business aspect of this. We talk corporate, we talk small business. You know, you were a presidential appointee, but you did the work for all. There's a political piece of this as well. And when I will just say the most startling thing for me is, while I was at the White House, I'll never forget, jobs numbers came out, and we were having a very rough time. I was on the email with the economists, okay, and very smart people. I'm just a comms person. And they're like, we need to say that Black unemployment is this, and this is a point that we should be touting. And I said, but overall unemployment is less than 4%. And I said, I don't think the community is going to be happy that Black unemployment is still double that of everyone else. And the economist wrote back and said, Black unemployment is always higher. And I said, should we be okay with that? Right. So I think that there's a political piece of this as well, and how folks in the policy-making space are thinking about it. Can you talk a little bit about that?
2 things first. I want to frame this a little differently if I can. So as everyone here has talked about the business side, but I want us as Black women to think about this. Our finances are tied to our well-being, and our well-being is tied to our finances, okay? And when you think about the political piece of this, it gets back to something you said, which is somehow we as Black women should be content to still make, 69 cents for every dollar our white sisters make, or maybe 70, even though we may have more education, be in a higher position. And one of the reasons there's such a mass exodus of Black women leaving corporate, I'm one of those people that left big law firm life in 2009 and never looked back. Sometimes I missed the money, but the hassle and the stress and the distress and what we deal with is why you see so many of us starting businesses and wanting our own financial independence, because we know it's tied to our wellness. So from a policy standpoint, to answer your question more directly about the politics of this, I think that there is still a high level of illiteracy in the media, in the politicians, whether it's in the White House, any White House. This White House is certainly better. But whether it's in the halls of Congress, they still don't understand Black women. And they still don't understand what drives us and how important we are to the economy for the reasons, Sharon, you talked about. I didn't know there were people working that were unpaid. That kind of mortifies me a little bit, and I'd like to know more about that. But sisters, what I'm saying is this, to wrap it, the reason I write a book with a subtitle, Taking Care of Everyone But Me, because everybody in this room understands that. Everybody in this room as a black woman has done that. If you're older, over 50, when you get 50, by the way, you wake up and you no longer care what you say, or you just say it. And so, you know, when my mother who's in her 70s and my grandmother's in her 90s, and they saw the subtitle book, they're like, well, are you mad at somebody? I'm like, what do you mean I'm mad? I'm like, I'm just telling you what it is. I'm tired. I don't want to do it anymore. And I think that has to be factored into, they don't deal with us as human beings. We aren't seen for the layered beings we are and what we have to deal with that our white sisters, our Latina sisters, and others don't deal with in the workplace. We uniquely deal with stressors and situations that others don't. So Simone, as a policy question, I think you were right to push back. And I like that you said, well, what are we supposed to be happy with that? But I think we have to educate.
They didn't respond, by the way.
Right. We have to educate these politicians, particularly the white politicians who love to get our votes on election day, about once you come into our communities and you talk to us and you talk about creating jobs, you got to know how to speak to our unique issues, because we are not the same as all women. Anyway, I'll shut up for now. Anyway.
No, this is good. See, this is how we kicking off the day. Okay, so now that we have a baseline, what are some of the biggest economic challenges then facing black women? I'm just going to throw it out there for anyone. Sharon, I'm going to start with you, because I know you. I know you know.
I think one of the biggest challenges is just being able to figure out what we can control and focus on that. I think right now we're looking at a time where we're concerned about the economy. There's all this debate is, are we in a recession or not? Are we not in a recession? What does inflation mean? It means we're paying a lot more for every single thing we're doing. You know, interest rates, what are we supposed to do about that? We have no control over any of that. And what do we have control over? It is our financial lives. It is taking control of what we can do, whether it is starting our own business, whether it's managing our own family's finances in a different way, in a way that really is going to work in this particular time. I think that needs to be our focus, and not so much the noise that we're hearing and the stressors that are going on, but staying in our lane. And that lane it includes a lot. It includes us, it includes our families, it includes older family members, younger family members, but we need to focus on that. So my key things right now are trying to get people to think about, with all the expenses and all the things you have to do, where do you put your money right now? What do you do with your money right now? And I think it's very important to keep in mind that keeping cash, that's the queen. That's the king. That's the most important thing.
I want you to unpack this though. Keeping cash is the king or queen. What are you suggesting?
What I'm suggesting is, as we're trying to figure out how to manage our spending, the first place that we spend or that we allocate our money is to ourselves for saving, for cash, to have something liquid about so that when things like this happen, we can manage it. And so that we're looking for places that are going to give us 2% interest on savings, 3% interest on savings. That seems like nothing. That's better than losing 23% in the market right now, right? Not saying that you need to take that money out of the market at all. So important to have long-term growth. But right now, to be able to sleep at night, I need to know that I have money to pay for my family, my mortgage, my things that I need to do right now, right? So I think that's very important. And it's also very important because we have so much credit card debt as a nation, not just us, but as a nation. So do you want 3% or 2% on your savings? You want to pay 18% interest for those shoes you don't even like anymore. You don't even wear them anymore because we're, COVID, you're on a screen half the time with, leggings on and socks. You don't need those shoes. So
Sharon is on some of y'all's pew right now. She is on your pew. She is speaking to you.
So it's really important, I think, to focus on what we can control and, block out some of the noise. It is distressing, but we have enough stressors on our own. We don't need to add that to it. And I think doing that gives us some control and the most important part, some independence and some empowering confidence in where we are financially.
I think Sophia wants to jump in on this, as does Natalie.
Let me piggyback, because what she's saying is important, but here's another layer. You have to have also planning for your long-term wellness. Let me get back to this because it impacts your finances. Do you have an estate plan? Yes. Do you know how many funerals I've had to pay for in my family where people called, cousin so-so ain't got no money, we got to bury him? I'm being serious. Y'all know what I'm talking about. What's your long-term care plan? I had a parent get sick out of nowhere for 2 years. Now in my house, living with me, I'm responsible. You understand? That impacts your finances. If you weren't ready for that and you didn't plan for that, so many of us sitting in this room do not have wills, basic wills, trust and estates planning, and you must have it because, am I right, Sharon, that impacts your financial wealth?
So, Sophia, I'm so glad you brought this up because, you know, I would not wish for anybody to have to do a test drive of their estate plan, but I did in 2016.
Sure.
I almost lost my life to a brain aneurysm.
Yep.
And I was out of work for a month, but most importantly, I was not in any state to make any legal, financial, any decisions about my life, medical decisions about my life. And so my estate plan, my health care proxy, which everyone should have,
Yep.
that person was my husband, the successor was my sister. In tandem, they made all of those decisions for my medical care. My financial life, the same two people making those decisions. Having a living will, being intubated, having those decisions already thought about. No one wants to think at 48 that's going to happen to me, but it could, and you've seen it happen to a sister, a cousin, a friend, a colleague. So it is so important. I have 2 children, and who's going to take care of them? How many people who have children who are minors do not have a will? It's unbelievable to me because you want to have the person that you love, that you know will love your children, be that guardian. So that's an important person to name. So I don't want to take too much time. Sophia is 5,000% right. You need all of those documents, and you also need to automate everything because that's the way to make sure that I still had a roof over our heads, that our family had a roof over our heads, make sure all those major bills are paid and unpaid on time. But it's so important. And getting someone who is an attorney, getting someone who is an expert, paying that $1,000 might be, you could do it on your own. You want an expert to make sure all that time.
So I'm gonna,
Natalie,
Yeah,
is this something you all dealt with at SBA?
Well, so I personally dealt with this. My father passed in April.
Sorry.
So thank you. So I'm going to actually jump in here in many different ways. My father passed in April, and we are going through exactly what you all are talking about. So this couldn't be more on spot on, right? And this is one of the other greatest forms of wealth transfer.
Yep.
For Black families outside of home ownership. It is estate planning. And I don't care whether you have $1 or you have $1 million. Your children, your offspring, and your family deserve to be able to have you take care of those things. It's what you are required to do in legacy of your own legacy. But I want to speak to the question Simone asked, and I'm going to also speak to it personally as well. So let's talk about this. So first off, I didn't come to SBA, not having entrepreneurial experience. So for 13 years, I've served as the founder of one of the largest national women's organizations focused exclusively on entrepreneurship called Walker's Legacy. And we had the ability to do the first ever research study on Black women entrepreneurs for the National Women's Business Council. And these were some of the challenges that come up. And one of them has to do exactly with what we're talking about. In this room are people, including myself, who can't say I had my husband to serve as my estatee. Black women's economic gap in our income as a result of, just historical disenfranchisement is also evidence in our lack of partnership, regardless of what the circumstances are. So we are also at a higher percentage of not ever getting married, which then makes the disposable income that we have access to in our homes dependent exclusively upon us. And then when we top that with our wage disparity, we get back to the continued cycle of us not having enough to make do, taking on what we now call side hustles, what my grandma would call second, third shift. Right. This gets us back to her point about health and wellness. And here we go with the vicious cycle. When we did this research, we are not new to this. Black women have been entrepreneurial since the moment
Yes.
we were allowed
Yes.
to have our labor counted for. We did it because we had to do it for our families. Even the Bible talks about a Proverbs woman. She was out selling cloth and she was enterprising. She was out running her business.
Yes.
And so then the other thing is that the research showed us that black women had a fear of going to talk to lenders to get funding because we don't want to deal with any more rejection in our lives. We would rather bootstrap it ourselves and go into somebody all up in our business because we feel uncomfortable about that. And then 2, have the possibility of somebody telling us no when we hear no everywhere else in our lives. And that's also how PPP was manifested in terms of us not having the same access because we didn't have some of those banking relationships. That wasn't SBA that blocked you from getting that money. That was whatever bank you were working with that we gave the money to because we just guaranteed the money. We didn't distribute the money, right? Directly to you all. So those are some of the big challenges that we have. But sisters, we have a moment of opportunity right now. And here are the opportunities, and I'm just going to take 2 seconds with this, Simone.
We good.
1, we need to collectivize. We have a moment before us that requires our partnership and our collaboration. No longer is you doing good enough.
I want to stay on one for a moment. No longer is you doing good just good enough. We are talking about community here.
We're talking about all of it.
Yes.
We're talking about the distribution of wealth. We're talking about community. We're talking about the distribution of knowledge. We're talking about the distribution of relationships. We're talking about social capital that leads to economic capital. We're talking about bridge making instead of bridge destruction.
Hello.
We're talking about all of that. We have more black women in this administration than the history of the United States of America. I don't know that we'll say that again, and whoever the next president is. And you know that's right.
I do not think we'll be able to say it again. I want to ask you about succession planning first. And then, Gabrielle, I want to come to you because one of the questions we already hit on it, but what happens if I'm hit with an emergency? What should I have in place? Is it safe to say you got a family business?
Yes, it's safe to say. So my father started our organization 48 years ago. 25 years ago, he passed away untimely at 62. So not thinking he was going to go anywhere anytime soon. So to the point about succession planning, I say that he halfway planned. He planned enough for us to be able, for our corporate attorney, an estate attorney, an accountant to say that the name on the sign can remain yours because he did this. But if he had done X, Y, and Z, I wouldn't have had to pay estate tax.
Yep.
Well, years after he passed, for someone who had been already, someone who has already paid their taxes. So the other side of this is understanding the ramifications that happen to the families when you have built up your wealth, but how is it distributed and how is it managed? And so at 27, I was thrust into the leadership role of our organization, but also was thrust into understanding that what is ours may not have been ours to keep. And everyone thinks that you have to have millions and millions, but when you start adding things up on paper, a 401k, insurance, your house, if you have cars, but you can get there very quickly, and things keep changing with administrations and tax laws. So it is a moving target, but you really need to understand what that is, because then you have to pay so much of that, a percentage of that, if you don't have a financial solid estate plan. And that's where we as a people don't always understand what that means. And that's where, for me, I had the opportunity to get involved in our industry, and I would lobby on the Hill for the mere fact of why estate tax, one, should be eliminated, but from the perspective of what it can do to damage to get to that second generation. So my peers in my industry, they're on 4th and 5th generations. They don't even have to go to work every day because that's been built. I mean, being the only second generation African American female, it's the last day of the month. Y'all lucky I'm here because I need them to close some deals out. But
Yeah, hit the
I mean,
numbers.
I'm still working every day and don't have that luxury to go play golf in every league during the week, even though I try. But those are the things that if we plan better, I mean, to even get to the second generation, and let's not even think about what that third generation looks like, and not just in the auto industry, what that looks like across all industries of entrepreneurship, and that's what we want. But if we don't plan here, and historically, my father's generation, which hopefully we can change in mine and in Gabby's, don't want to talk about what they may have because they're afraid of losing it. So, but the more education and conversation we can have, and long-term care, I've had that discussion with every close personal friend, acquaintance, whatever. If you don't have a long-term care plan,
You're in trouble.
you cannot rely on your family to necessarily be a Sophia to do that.
Yes.
And that's another part of your financial, of really understanding what that means and how it impacts
And
your
it hits
finances.
your finances was the reason I brought it up. You can have a lot of money saved. You can be good. But if you got to take care of a parent all of a sudden, or if you get sick, I've had sorors in their 40s just drop dead of aneurysms or whatever, not wake up, heart attacks and things. And that's jarring because you're like, nobody dies in their 40s. Of course, people die in their 20s. They die all the time. And we don't like to talk about that. But what I want you to get from me is you can be doing what it takes. You ask, what should you have? I'm one of these people, I have a year's salary put away. I've got that. I'm that kind of structured person. Most people are lucky if they got 2 months. You know, the average family can't access something like $500, is it, Sharon?
Right.
Think about that. In an emergency, if you get sick, do you have a disability plan? If you're an entrepreneur, you got to have a disability policy. I have a soror who had a husband, 2 beautiful young people, beautiful kids. She works at the CIA. He works a contractor, big. He gets, what's the blastoma? The one that's terminal. Young man. She kept on him about getting the stuff in order. He didn't have it in order because he thought, we're young, we're healthy, we got money. Of course, when you get that blastoma, nobody's going to insure you now. So now they're down to 1 income when they have a home and everything else that they've got to take care of, right? And then he dies in 18 months. So not only did 3 little girls lose a father and a wife loses a husband, but their finances are turned upside down. They got to move from their house. Everything was good 1 minute. It flipped the next, and that's for us, as she said, sister in the red jacket. What she said was
You
right.
have now become sister in the red jacket.
We as black women are the most vulnerable rung on the social economic ladder. So even when we're doing well, because of our families and us taking care of everybody but me, we will dip into our 401k, Simone, to help. And it's good to love. I'm not saying don't love and help people, but what about you in this equation? Because who's going to be there when your money runs out and take care of you?
You know, I think this is an interesting, yes, clap it up for Sophia for she's dropping the gems. The ladies are dropping the gems. This is such an interesting point. Gabrielle, you are a young woman, okay? Younger than me.
Younger than all of us.
Way younger. And you started a successful business in the pandemic. There are lots of people that started businesses in the pandemic and they cannot claim that they are successful now. But that wasn't your first business. Like you have been, so what kind of financial literacy did you get? Who poured into you and what do you have that maybe you could share with the ladies in the room and on the Zoom?
In full honesty, I am still looking for more financial literacy. I mean, all of these ladies have already touched on how you can set up your money so that way you are financially stable in the future. One of my questions for you ladies is, I am young and we do talk about all these things that can happen and that can affect me later on. But I mean, I'm 18. I never think about death.
Yeah, people are like,
I don't have a family. I don't have a family to take care of, and it's really just me. But now that the new NIL space, name, image, and likeness has opened up, you have a lot of young people who are starting to make adult dollars. And the question is, what are we supposed to do with these dollars, and how are we supposed to capitalize so that way in the future we are still set up the same?
That's a good question. Okay, give me one gem from you. Everybody get a gem.
The first thing is that you need to, when I said cash is queen, it's important for you to understand that too, because you're not doing W-2 work like a lot of people in here. You are an entrepreneur that may not have taxes taken out of your pay as much as you need to. And you don't want to get hit with a big tax bill when that comes. So make sure
Been
that
there.
make sure that
Still
you're
paying.
taking out enough money from what you're getting to be able to pay the tax when it comes,
Put
or
it in
better
escrow.
yet, pay those estimated taxes exactly when you should so you don't get hit with that. So I think that's one of the first things that you should be doing.
Can I just have a follow-up question for other young people such as myself? Now I got a W-2 job, praise the Lord, but I didn't always have one, so I got money I'm paying. What? Because this is a good question. Are you suggesting that folks should get an accountant or a tax attorney, someone to work with them to do I want to be specific with the gym.
Okay, so we all need to have a team. I think it's very important to have a financial advisor, to have an accountant, a tax expert, and to
a
have an
corporate
attorney
attorney.
on your team.
Yes.
Because we can't figure this all out ourselves. And there are people that are doing this all the time, and you say, but I have to dip here, and I don't, but should I? And they've heard that already 3 calls ago. And so now they're going to be able to help you with that. So I think it's really important to set up that team, to invest in the team, and particularly if you're an entrepreneur, that team is just as important as the staff that you're building, as the people that you're building in your business.
Janelle, what's your gym? Your one gym? She took your gym?
She took
I know
my
you
gym,
got another
but,
one in your pocket.
I mean, it's just, and from my vantage point of having that team, which all of my team, they can have a conversation now without me even being present, because they understand who and what I need. And that's very important, but we have to take the time, and that's where we don't take the time. And it's something that I always say, you can, and you're talking about financial literacy, something my father always, he said this to me the month before he passed. He said, if you think you'll ever know everything about this industry, you're sadly mistaken, but you have to have the will and the want to continue learning. That's why we're all here today. I mean, if you feel that you've hit that ceiling, like, I don't need to go to another seminar, I don't need to be on a webinar, I don't need to take a class, then you're missing the point, because you can always grow, and through growth, you'll find another opportunity or an aha moment to say, okay, something's changed in my plan. How do we go from here? So it seems very basic, but it all goes back to education and having an open mind of what that means in terms of your plan. Totally agree, but you have to make the taxation part can make you or break you.
Yes, it can.
So I mean,
It's
that's,
broken some people.
and it has.
Natalie, what is your gym?
So I'm going to be really tactical, and it is at the end of the year, September, about now, if you have money and you've got a lot of money in your account, whatever a lot is to you, we're so used to like being afraid to spend that money. This
Well,
goes
you can
to
spend it and buy some vehicles
Well, this-
before the end of the year.
Well, I mean, let's talk about it. So hold on. This is a real entrepreneur conversation. Been one and am one again. At the end of the year, what may feel comfortable is to keep that money in your account because you want to feel safety and security in seeing that money in your account. But the reality is, as a for-profit business, whatever you leave in that account is going to be taxed.
Yep.
And so it's your
listen to what she's
responsibility to the point that we're making or whatever, to identify the retirement accounts, the 520 to 529 accounts. You should be investing that money in a 529 because you might want to go to grad school, okay?
children
Like
somewhere.
you should be putting money, if you want to do philanthropic work, you put a little money over here and call it the XYZ Foundation and boom, boom, boom. But what we cannot do, and I've done this, right? Because anyone that's an entrepreneur, when they start making, their first business and they start getting money, it's like, man, I don't know exactly if I'm gonna get this exact amount next year, but I know that I need it. But this is the game of entrepreneurship and business, period. You're supposed to have $0 in that account by the end of the year. And all that money is supposed to be spread somewhere else, so that you don't end up having a $150,000 tax bill because you kept $300,000 in that account because you wanted to feel financially secure being able to look at $350,000 sitting there. This is different than what you're talking about in terms of paying yourself, because that's your owner's draw or salary. This is the profits of your business sitting in an account. because we are afraid to pay it. That's tactical advice.
Yeah.
That is important for us for generations to come, because these tax bills, they earn as much interest as with the penalties and fees as that cash will be earning you just sitting in the account.
And the 401k that you can do as an entrepreneur, a solo 401k, is twice as much as
Yes,
you could put
it is.
into if you're working for a
Yes, it
corporation.
is.
So keep in mind that $50,000 or more could be in this account. That is your money.
That's right.
That they
Your
can't
money
tax.
for the
That they
cannot
can't
be
tax.
taxed.
Gabby, I got some of these notes for you, girl. I was like, yeah. Sophia, what's your gym?
My gym is the obvious, which is you're never too young to start planning for your future, and that buy property if you can, invest, like be smart, buy a home, like get your first, and again, there are a lot of, get with somebody you can trust who really knows the real estate market, and do your due diligence, but you can invest in properties near college campus. Cambridge is not a bad place, probably high-end property, right? But the point is, it's never
You
too
should go over
early.
that bridge to Boston.
Right, but exactly, and you can go into some of the places like Charlestown and some of the other areas where they might be redeveloping things and put money into that, which will grow for you. The other thing I think is, again, and I get that no one likes to talk about death. We're all still traumatized by Queen Elizabeth looking good one day, and the next day she wasn't here no more. They released her death certificate yesterday and said she
said
died of old age. I was like, what is that?
It said she died of,
I was like,
Queen
y'all-
Elizabeth's death certificate
I don't
said
know,
she died of
Simone.
old age.
I'm starting to look at Charles with a side eye. I don't know. But at the end of the day,
Leave it to the monarchy. I love the British. I love the British.
But my point is, we think of death in old age, right? And none of us likes thinking, but you got to be, in the back of your mind, you have to know that you are here on borrowed time. And even if you live to be 100, that's not going to be enough time. So if at your age, you can have a plan together, have that living will, have your directive if something, because accidents happen, things happen.
Yes, they
I had a
do.
bicycle accident that had me out of work for 2 years with a head injury at one point.
Yeah.
As an entrepreneur, and as you said, guess what? You got to stop.
Yep.
Because if it's just you that's in your business and then you're consulting, everything stops if you stop.
That's right.
So you have to think long term about that living will, the trust, the disability insurance. Folks, if you're an entrepreneur, you got to have disability.
Absolutely.
Because you got to have something that replaces your income. Aflac ain't going to do it for you. You got to have, you're going to help a little bit, but you got to have more than that. Anyway, I'm done.
Wait, Simone, one more thing for you, Gabby. This
Come
is
on,
so
Gabby,
important.
because it's for us.
This is for
This
everyone.
ain't nobody else. This is for us. And my sisters in the back, right here.
But I think that one of the things that you're doing, and I think we should acknowledge your mom is here, because you all are.
Come on, Mom. Y'all better give Mom a round of applause. She don't look a day over 32.
I know, right? I know,
But
right?
this needs to be a family conversation that we're having. This is not just, as you were talking, Natalie, about community, about partnerships, about the partnerships with family, the intricacies of family, the dynamics of family can be very challenging.
Yes, they
And
can.
also can be very empowering. So what I would encourage you to do, particularly as a student athlete, we were talking about things related to death. This is not about death. A healthcare proxy as an 18-year-old, someone needs to be able to make those decisions for you. And your mother can't just call and say, I want to know all what's happening. Why? They told me she sprained her ankle, and I was watching. I don't want that to happen to you, but I'm saying as a student athlete, you need to have a healthcare proxy. Everyone on your team needs to have a healthcare proxy. Anyone here who has a child at college needs to, when they come home, sit with them and make sure they have a healthcare proxy.
Absolutely right.
It's because you don't know what's going to happen and you want to know. You want to be the person there to be able to help them. So those are among the documents. You're laughing because your mother already told you that.
Yes,
but,
she did.
but that's the conversation that we need to have, and those types of conversations that are basic, and not basic for some people, lead to the other ones. Lead to the other ones that are bigger ones. And then you don't have that problem that, some people I know, where the person is not talking to this sibling and that person is not talking to that, and we got to make these decisions together.
On the whole name, image, and likeness, that you need to have that team
Yes, that's
around
IP.
you
That's
with
IP.
that. Because I was a student athlete too, and I wish I would have had any inkling of opportunity of name, image, and likeness. But you need to use that team, and that's a great baseline to continue even into your business and as you continue to go down your path. but use that team because you need to be taking advantage, because trust me, I'm head of I'm on the University of Dayton's board and I'm the chair of the athletic committee. And basketball, men's basketball, and the name, image, and likeness that they're getting is just absolutely incredible. Again, despairing numbers between male and female, but you just need to make sure you have that team.
I want to ask, but I want to ask 2 other questions before we go to our audience questions, not
Soliloquies.
soliloquies. Yes, ladies. Yes, yes, yes. 2 more questions. And what does someone have to do to be able to retire well?
Marry well.
You missed it. If you missed it, Janelle said marry well.
Wait, I'm gonna say what Cher's mama. I'm gonna say what Cher's mama said.
Let
Cher's
me
mama
write it on
said.
the sheet. Let me write it on the sheet. I am. I'm married well too. I hope he watching this baby. I'm like, baby, I did my part. What if one does not marry well? How can they retire well?
That's likely
Well,
for us.
so I will jokingly answer this and then answer it as best I can. So, because I'm not married, right? And there are many of us that, half of this room is not married,
Yeah.
right? Based off the statistics, right? So Cher is having a conversation with her mom, and her mom was like, you know, why are you not meeting these rich men? Why are you not reading these rich men? And Cher said, Mommy, I am the rich man.
I'm gonna take a sip.
Okay, so on that note, okay, but I think understanding what you want, like retiring well is a subjective term because it's dependent upon what you want. You know, I know Simone and I love our brands and our clothes.
I got that pin. I was like, I'm glad I didn't wear my pin today. I was like, dang.
We love a little Gucci here or there sprinkled, you know, and so to sustain that, we need to really come up with what that budget would be and start in doing exactly what we said, which is putting money in all these various accounts and not just one, so that we have money coming from all these various accounts. But if I could just 2 seconds, Simone, say one thing, because you mentioned family. And I was on a panel the other day, and this was an example. And this is how impactful family conversations are and family collaboration is. There was a family with 7 siblings, and Big Mama died. And because they didn't have a relationship with each other, because they wouldn't talk to each other, every time they got in a room, as some of us have in our family, something happened and popped off, right? The tax liability that they had on that home was only $5,000.
But
Between 7 siblings. But because they couldn't get in a room and come to terms, that home that they only had to pay $5,000, it might have even been less than, is now worth more than $1 million in Inglewood, California. And as you probably are guessing, they lost it. They lost it because they could not get on the same page and program. And so what I'm going to say to this point that you're making too, and how we retire well, is also our family is our asset as well. And as Jay-Z said, nobody wins when the family feuds.
that's good. That's real.
What do we need to do to retire well?
Well, I think we do need to think about
What is well?
What is well? Well, that's what I was going to say. What is well to you? Do you want to be in the same community? Do you want to be in the same type of, have the same people around you? Do you want to move somewhere that's less expensive? You need to think early on about what retiring well means. It doesn't mean you leave the entrepreneurial aspirations you have right now for something else in a different location, or if you're working in a corporate job that you leave that and start your own. I think the most important thing is what is going to make you happy, thinking about that, and then what is it going to take to get there. So retire well means something different for everyone, I think. I think it's really important to just think about what you want and then strategize how you're going to get there.
Sophia, I'm going to be honest. I have not known anyone personally that retired up until my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law recently retired. She worked at the Veteran Affairs for about 35 years. And she's a nurse, she recently retired. And when I went to her retirement ceremony, I was shocked because I've never known anyone who retired. My father worked up until his passing. He died unexpectedly in 2017 from a stroke. My mother is a serial entrepreneur. If y'all met my mother, you know she got multiple streams of income. And she's one of them. Okay, I she got a t-shirt with my name on it somewhere, probably telling y'all buy my mother's t-shirt. Okay.
That is funny.
She got to reap her benefits. Honey. I understand. I had never personally knew anyone that retired. And I asked my mother-in-law, I said, what do you do now? Mm-hmm. And she was like, oh, well, I'm going on my cruises. She said, but I have my own business. Mm-hmm. And she has now started her own business. She picks up the hours that she wants. And I was just so shocked by this because I myself had never had that personal experience. And I would argue that there are a lot of people like me, especially young people who don't know anyone in their lives, who has had the opportunity to retire.
So this gets back to where I started, that how you take care of you piece, right?
Yes.
We, again, as black women, from the time we are this age, have a mindset. It's a hustle mindset. It's a get it done. It's a I got to take care of stuff. There are grandparents taking care of grandchildren that they didn't anticipate. There are all kind of things that get thrown at us that are different, which push retirement much further down the road. A lot of my white peers are already starting in their 50s to retire. I'm talking, I don't know why anybody would want to do that, but okay. If you can, I guess it's fine. But I'm talking mid-50s, 60s. We have friends whose house they own 20 acres out in Virginia off on the Shenandoah, $1 million house. They got millions in the bank. And they're only 60 years old. I don't know many black folks that have that, right? So the thing is, to your point, that is something different. My mom retired because health forced her. She's a labor and delivery nurse, 40 years. We kept telling her it's time for you to retire. She don't want to retire. Health finally said, you will retire. So now, she kind of drives me crazy all the time. But other than that, it's like your mom, she's got stuff she wants to do. She's going to go work at the church and be the school nurse there, which I'm so excited. I want to hug the pastor. I'm like, thank you for giving us something to do. But the point is that it's a mindset, ladies, and we have to shift. And your generation, I love because y'all do things very differently. Now, baby boomers and your generation, that ain't a lot of good. I'm a Gen Xer, so we're in the middle watching you go at it. But the thing is that your generation has a very I'm going to take my trip. I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to chill. That's a good attitude, actually.
But we might not pay our rent.
Right. Simone, there you go.
And on the trip, but is your rent paid?
Right. Or I might not like this job no more. I just quit. Right.
Priority.
You're right.
I struck a chord. The people are like, I've been telling you.
But what I'm saying is, to answer the question, it is a mindset that we do need to think about retirement. And the data, Sharon, the data is not good for us. Our savings accounts a lot less, the value of our homes, if we have one, the debt burden. Everybody else is here, we're here, even though we're working twice as hard. So retirement is something you got to actually have a mindset about when you're your age. You guys thinking about, what milestones would I want to hit? Where do I want to be when I'm 30? Where do I want to be when I'm 50? Where do I want to be when I'm 60? We weren't taught to think like that. Your generation is, and I think it's a generational shift, Simone.
Agreed.
So
But
I think you'll see.
What's your retirement plan, Gabby?
Have some money.
Yeah. A lot of money right now. Girl, marry well.
Very well.
We're going to take some questions from the audience, but when we have a mic, good. All right, now, ladies, questions, not soliloquies, and I will note our lovely sister who is handling the microphone, she will hold it. Please don't try to take the mic from her. We went to the Oprah Winfrey School of Asking Questions. I hold the mic. You ask the question, not soliloquies. Okay, all right. We're going to start with our questions. Raise your hands, ladies. Let us know. What's your name, where you from, and what's your question? She gonna hold it.
Hi, Link Simone.
This is Kimberly.
Good to see everyone. Oh, black women, powerful. No soliloquies. Okay, my question is, because I kind of fall in that window, I'm 42 with you, and there could be a list of folks here that could help you build this team. Who are they? I don't know them. They're in our organization, but there's a million people that could do this. And I just would love to know, where do you go to get such resources so I can be in the same camp of how we move this forward?
My good link sister has a good question.
Yeah.
Where do you get the team?
So to find a financial advisor, there are a couple of places that I would suggest. One is going to the Financial Planning Association. The other one is to go to the National Association of Personal Financial Advisors. And on there, you can go and where you live, what your interest is in terms of whether it's estate planning or retirement planning, college planning, and find experts in your area. There's also an organization called Quad A, the African American Financial Advisors Group. If you want a black financial advisor, they're all there. And that's where you should go to find that kind of information. In terms of an estate planning attorney, the same thing. There are organizations, trade organizations for estate planning attorneys. You can find one in your area. And the other thing is that some of these organizations will give you kind of a checklist of questions to ask. Just like you interview them, just like you interview people, you know, or you're interviewed for a position. You don't have to go with the first person. A recommendation from a friend could be helpful, but you need to ask them, have you worked with people like me in my particular situation? The American, or I won't say what the acronym is, I'll just say the acronym because I know that. AICPA, going to them to find an accountant in your area, another place to go. But you're right, there are millions of people out there, but those are websites you can go to find people. I'd start by just asking. One of the things is, don't be ashamed to ask somebody you think may know. So I found my financial advisor 20 years ago at a black journalist convention. And one of the people that I'd followed in my career, read his byline, loved his work as a social entrepreneur journalist covering that 25 years ago for the Wall Street Journal. And he was so excited to retire from print journalism in a very comfortable position. And I was like, that doesn't usually happen in this industry. This is not an industry where people kind of retire early and he said, I have a great financial advisor. And I've been with that person ever since. That referral was key for me because I knew it was someone who was doing something that I do. So start there too and talk about it.
But the other thing is, who's in this room right now?
Right.
Do we have any financial advisors?
Well, no. What I'm saying is, but what
let's get
Well, we got one. We got some financial advisors.
What I'm saying is to use our networks of the organizations that we're in.
Yes.
We need to do a better job of letting our members know, our sisters know of who the experts are that can help us to build that team. I mean, a majority of us are in a sorority.
Don't you look at me. Don't you look at a Delta woman like that.
Well, my pink and green is always on me. That's okay. I'm in links too. I mean, but you know, whatever organization you're here representing today, and being fun, and we can have fun in our sisterhood. But we need to do a better job of educating our sister members of who is in the room. That even if they're retired, they may have that network, but we need to come to us first, and that's where sometimes we still feel inhibited of not wanting us to know that we don't know. That's where we have to get past, like, can you believe she just asked me now she should know how to handle her finances at this point, but you don't know.
Right.
And because I had the unfortunate of being very young, a lot of people do come to me for that, but I'm not an expert.
Right.
That's where we need to rely
Very
on
quickly,
our
Natalie,
sisters.
then we're going to take our next question.
My lawyer, Howard alum. My accountant, Howard alum. My entrepreneurial programming, I'm a Howard alum. I say that just not because Howard, but because you went to school with someone. Right. And she was there with me when I had $0 in the account, and she's been there with me when I had $1 million in the account. And so I think part of this too is these were my age peers as well, right? And there are people who've mentored me who are younger than me. I mean, Simone's younger than me. I look up to things that she has done, and I'm so thank you. And I'm so incredibly proud of her.
Well,
exactly. So to me, it's like who's in your alumni network, who's in your sorority group, and as we mentioned, but talk to them and give them an opportunity too, because this goes back to building community. They need you as a client just as much as you need their information, and when you grow, they will grow too.
Good, Jim.
Yes.
Our next.
Good morning, ladies. My name is Terry Easton, Senior Director of Advancement Equity Initiative at the Cleveland Foundation, first noticed community foundation in the world. I want to say, the question is, what is your advice for those who want to establish a charitable giving strategic plan? There are so many community foundations that are looking for individuals that they can work with, donors they can work with, and they will provide the resources. They will help them create the board of directors with the various advisors to help them feel confident and comfortable in making an informed decision. So have any of you established a charitable giving plan and or fund? And if so, how has it been valuable and beneficial?
All right, charitable giving fund.
I have.
In 2018, I established the Sharon Epperson Chair of Research with the Brain Aneurysm Foundation. And the goal of that is to provide research grants to scientists who are looking into early detection and innovative treatments. My way of doing it was to just raise money for the foundation, and from that fundraising, they are giving grants in my name. But I think another very strategic way to do this is to have a donor-advised fund. And to establish a donor-advised fund with a brokerage firm like a Fidelity or a Vanguard, many places will allow you to do this. To make sure that you're putting money away strategically, a certain amount every year, a certain amount every month if you can, and then you decide when you're ready where that money's going to go. When you've done your research, when you've gone to Charity Navigator, you've gone to GuideStar, you've made sure that they are reputable organizations, you've looked at how they do their financing and if you want to still contribute there. Because there are a lot of great charitable organizations with wonderful missions, but you want to make sure they're great, solid organizations financially as you're making that decision. And a donor-advised fund gives you that breathing room to keep putting money away, but then also take the time to really research where you want that money to go ultimately.
So
it's a tax write-off.
I went in.
And it's a tax write-off.
Going in a little bit of a different direction. Unfortunately, my mother passed away with breast cancer in 2010. So wanting to do something to honor her and her legacy, I started the Norma J. Ross Memorial Foundation. And not everyone will want to take on that task, but we are in the automobile business, and so my goddaughters came up with Pink Ribbon Driven. So we're driven to find a cure for the pink ribbon, which is my pen. So it does it provides me the opportunity to help us that may underinsured, insured, no insurance. We're really focused on the preventative, and that's what Sharon and I were talking about, because it goes back to education. So I've been able to use my entrepreneurial platform to help a personal passion that can still help the community and beyond, because at the end of the day, we have to educate one another and bring about more awareness of the need to be preventative and get your initial screenings. But it also gives me the joy of being able to honor something in her honor, as well as continuing to give back to the community. So it's on a dual-fold I do have donor-advised funds as well, but it also provides me this labor of love to really continue to help us in the community of fighting breast cancer.
The one thing, Natalie, I think I wanted to bring this up because it's something that I've been thinking about a lot as we as a community think about charitable giving, and that is social entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And small businesses, black-owned businesses, black female-owned businesses that need our help. It's not a charitable giving, but it's an angel investing.
Yeah,
it's
correct.
a being seed investing. And you are the expert more about that, but talking about how people, you don't have to have $1 million
Correct.
to help your sister create $1 million business.
Yes.
And so finding better ways to do that, I think, would be helpful for a lot of people to know.
Yeah, and so to that, and real quick, one other thing. If you're thinking of building a foundation, you can also go to a fiduciary manager or a fiscal sponsor and put your project or organization underneath theirs. And essentially you sign an MOU agreement, an operating agreement with them. Their tax status becomes your tax status of your project, and giving money to that organization gives you the same tax circumstances, and then it allows you to stand up a project or an organization of your choosing. So if you have a family initiative that you want to do, you might want to go to your local YWCA, YMCA, United Way, and ask them, do they do fiscal sponsorship? So that's one. The second thing is to her point about investment. So here's the deal. If you make over $200,000, you are able to be an accredited investor. Let's talk about what this actually means. When Mark Zuckerberg first started Facebook, he called around and asked folks to invest in his business. The people who could actually do that were people who were accredited investors. They had to make a certain amount of money based off the federal government requirements, and they were able to infuse capital into his company. At that time, especially being early stage, they were able to get probably a sizable amount of equity in his business. He then used that capital to continue to grow his business, and these are angel investors. Then he went to go get institutional investment from a venture capital fund. Now, those angel investors still have whatever equity they have in the business, and they all came to different terms and conditions. But trust me, when Facebook went public, people who were part of his initial angel investment, i.e. the people that received a call from him or called him and said, hey, how can I support your business, reaped the financial rewards. Even his painter, the person who painted the buildings at Facebook, is a millionaire. Because he chose equity in Facebook as compensation for his painting the building. Come on now. So,
very quickly.
yes. Go ahead.
No, to your point, but I want to always keep this global. To the lady who asked the question about, how do you know? Well, my grandmother used to say, and it's been 22 years to the day since she passed, and grandmothers, you just never forget them. And she was 6th grade education, smartest woman I know, from South Carolina. She used to say, baby, you better know your front row.
Yep.
And what she meant by that was, who do you have around you? And you spoke to this, Soror, about having, in our meetings and everything, but more importantly is, who are you hanging out with? Who are the people that you are connected to? Because we know from Base Leadership 101 that the 5 people you spend the most time with and are with, they determine the trajectory of your life. Don't miss this, young people. So what's important, what I'm saying is, we don't know a lot, sisters. Let's admit that. We don't know a lot, particularly when it comes to financial wellness and having those long-term plans, the equity investments, and all the things we've been talking about today is kind of new to us. And so my best advice to you would be, and to all of us, is connect with people that are smarter than you, that are doing better than you, that have a very positive outlook on life, and people who will expose you to things. Like you're saying, you might have somebody who's starting a business. There's a woman out in Loudoun County, a black woman. I have a wine line too off of my second book, The Woman Code, but this sister has her own winery. She's the first black-owned person in Loudoun County. We have 147 wineries out in Loudoun County, Virginia, right? A lot of people don't realize that. And she has the first black-owned winery, and it started from something she had read about. She moved because her husband's job moved to Leesburg, where I live, and then next thing you know, she's in the wine business, and she's doing great. The point is, it's exposure to different things, and I think for us, a lot of times we stay in that. Who talked about the safety box? Was that you about, I've got my $300,000 in the account, and I'm gonna just hold on to that. When you could invest in somebody something and give them $10,000, and it might end up earning you $1 million down the road. So we have to take a risk, but it's really about who we're connected to. And just to close out, as I know we're wrapping, sisters, you really have to think about you. We as black women do not think about self. And that's important, because if you keep pouring out and nothing's coming back in, and this is really about your finances when you think of that, if all you're doing is giving out money and you're lending money and you're doing this and you're doing that and you're helping everybody, what's happening to your retirement, your savings? If you get sick, is somebody going to step up? That's not a risk you should take. You have to be able to have a plan, and a financial plan that goes with the lifestyle you want, and the wellness and the happiness and the joy you want. Because as I learned, everything can be going along real good, and then bam. And what are you going to do when your parent gets sick? Say, I'm not going to help? That's not an option, right? So you got to step up, and being the caretaker. And I'm not the only sibling, by the way. But I'm the oldest, and I'm the girl. So you know how that works, right? So your brothers feel entitled not to do anything. But the point is, if you're trying to do it by yourself, and then you're trying to run your job and your own business, I started to get sick. I got COVID twice, vaccinated and all. So the point is, I was run down because I was doing too much. And then I start going, well, what's happening to my money? Who's going to take care of me if I... See what I mean? So this is really a big global thing.
We'll
See it as a big picture.
Sisters, we're going to go to our last question from our beautiful black queen in this fabulous mustard blazer. So this will be our last question.
my name is Samaria Robinson, and I am the international second vice of my sorority. So that means I'm the highest ranking undergraduate in the sorority. So I am the voice of the undergraduates.
What's your
And
sorority?
tell us
Tell us.
what is your sorority? That's right.
Tell us.
Sigma Gamma Rho
That's what I
Sorority
thought.
Incorporated. Okay, so my question is, what advice would you give collegiate students to break that cycle, like that mindset of being scared to start that business and to plan for that future? So what should they put their focus on to gain that confidence?
I love that.
That's
Gabby,
you, Gabby.
come on, Gabby. What is your advice? You're a successful businesswoman.
At 18.
Turn your hobbies and your passions into your business, because those things that you care so much about are those things that you can rely heaviest on in your darkest moments when things get hard, when it gets tough, you don't know if you're going to make it through. You're doing something you love. And so you're definitely going to be able to put more effort into those things.
She's 18. I mean, that's amazing.
And I'll just say to that,
Can you imagine her at 50?
No, I just want to know what she's going to be like at 25.
Yeah, I know, right?
Invest, honey. I'm trying to be like the people
well,
that say so.
seriously, right? This is a conversation about investment. So to answer your question for me, so I started a $25,000 scholarship at my alma mater at Howard. And it's specifically for young women like you who write a business plan and submit it to Howard. And if it's selected, you get a scholarship from a scholarship fund that I created. And I say people are looking to fund you right now.
Right.
They're looking to fund you right now.
Yeah.
You all are the ones that folks want to infuse money and capital into. So you should be the most fearless you could ever be in life right now. People are willing to give you the most grace you'll ever receive in your life right now. Spend the most amount of time with you ever right now. So take advantage of this moment in your life and do anything you think you want to do.
I think this is the perfect place to end right now. Give us a round of applause for Michelle, Gabrielle, Sophia, Sharon, Janelle, Natalie. Thank you ladies. Thank you to the Black Women's Agenda. My name is Simone Townsend, and it has been my pleasure to be your moderator. I just want to say, y'all can catch me Saturdays and Sundays. You can also catch me Mondays and Tuesdays with new episodes on the Peacock. And with that, give Miss Mary a round of applause.
Thank you so much. I have some special people to thank. I'm going to thank our panel and our moderator again. Didn't we learn a lot today? And don't forget, not only are you in the room, but we're in the room virtually. So there are some others who are gaining this excellent information. And I've got some good news for you. This is just the beginning. This was a high-level conversation around entrepreneurship, but there are people in our community who got to go to the basics, and we're going to do that. So there will be 3 webinars that will follow this in 2022, before the end of 2022, and also 2023. You have cards that you were given. If you want to be a part of this, make sure that as you go out, you leave your card at the registration desk. And I really want to thank our sponsor, Coca-Cola. We could not have done this without you. Would you stand and just wave? Some may not have heard your words. Thank you so much. We're so indebted to you. Thank you. And then we have our presidents of our national collaborating organizations, the BWA collaborating organizations. Remember, they talked about the resources. They have the resources. Ladies, presidents, please stand so we can see who you are. And then lastly, give yourselves a hand for being here and getting all this good information. Thank you for coming. Have a great day. And for those of you who are going to the luncheon, enjoy the rest of the day. Take care now.
there.